Most people are stuck in a cycle of waiting to feel like it, relying on a spark of motivation that is unreliable and emotional. If your progress depends on your mood, your results will always be inconsistent. I don't run my life on motivation, and honestly, you shouldn't either. Today, I'm going to show you how to swap feelings for standards. I'll show you how to move past the daily fight with yourself and reach a place where consistency is just a natural result of who you've decided to be. And by the end of today's video, you'll know how to make discipline look easy. See, motivation is one of the most overrated ideas in modern life. People talk about it as if it's a prerequisite for action, something you need to feel before you can move. And because it comes and goes, they build their lives around waiting for it. That's a mistake. Motivation is unreliable. You know that. It's emotional. It's reactive. It depends on your mood, sleep, the weather, and how life happens to feel that day. If your progress depends on motivation, your results will always be inconsistent. People who get ahead understand something that others don't. They don't run their lives on motivation. They run them on standards. A standard is different. It doesn't ask how you feel, doesn't negotiate, it doesn't care about your circumstances. It's simply an inner resolve. It's a personal agreement you've made with yourself about how you will live your life and what rules you will live by. This is why relying on motivation keeps people stuck. Every day becomes a debate. Should I train today? Should I work on this? Should I make the call? When every action requires negotiation, comfort is going to win. But standards remove that negotiation. When you have standards, the question isn't, do I feel like it? Instead, the question is this who I am? And identity is a much stronger driver than emotion. Look closely at people who are disciplined. They're not superhuman. They're not always inspired. They just decided at some point that certain behaviors are non-negotiable. And they hold a mental image of who they are. And they act in accordance with that image. And after that, the decision is over. They don't revisit it every morning. Most people never do this. They keep everything optional. And when everything is optional, nothing is consistent. The problem with motivation culture is that it teaches people to chase feelings instead of building an inner resolve. It makes people believe that once they feel ready, action will be easy. But action doesn't get easier. You just get more accustomed to doing it without emotional permission because your standards demand it. Standards train you to move regardless of your internal weather. There's also a deeper reason that standards matter. Without them, you slowly lose respect for yourself. Every time you break a promise to yourself, something erodes internally. You start to trust yourself less. But standards rebuild that self-trust. When you hold the line consistently, especially when no one is watching, you send a signal to yourself that you are dependable. And that signal compounds. It hardens you in a good way. This is why people with standards don't talk much about discipline. They don't experience it as a force. They experience it instead as alignment. They're simply acting in accordance with the mental image of who they decided to be. If you want to adopt this mindset practically, you have to realize that applying standards isn't actually about doing. It's about holding a mental image of who you are or who you want to become. It's like an inner knowing. And once you have that personal agreement with yourself, once you verbalize internally the rules that you will live by, the actions just spring from that self-talk. For example, you don't force yourself to move your body or to train. You simply hold the image of yourself as someone who is physically fit, capable, and healthy. Because this is who you are. and the training happens. You don't force yourself to face a task you've been avoiding or initiate a difficult conversation. You hold the image of yourself as someone who is honest and direct. The action is just the natural consequence of that resolve. You don't force yourself to move your life forward materially. You hold the image of a person who creates value and builds skills. So you act because it would feel wrong not to. These are not ambitions, they are standards. The power here is not in the size of the action. It's in the consistency of the image. Small standards, backed by that inner resolve, change your identity faster than occasional bursts of motivation ever could. I personally started and grew a multi-million-dollar business, employing thousands of people for almost 10 years. I worked 12-hour days routinely, and the first year was 14-hour days. No amount of motivation or force could have made me do that. I had standards for myself, for who I was and what I needed to do. Another reason standards matter is they simplify your life. Fewer decisions, less emotional noise. You don't argue with yourself about whether to show up. You either honor the agreement or you don't. And if you don't, you feel it immediately. There's no guilt, just awareness. You know you fell short of the person you claim to be. And because the rule was clear, you can correct it the next day without drama. This is how adults live, not by chasing inspiration, but by honoring the inner resolve they have for their own lives. There's also something else that happens when you raise your standards. Your environment changes. People who don't share your standards drift away. Opportunities that require consistency begin to appear, and your life starts to reflect what you tolerate and what you don't tolerate. It's not about being harsh or joyless. It's about being serious about your time, your capacity, who you're becoming. Standards are for continuing, whereas motivation is needed just for starting. So if you're waiting to feel differently before you act, stop. Act first. Let the feeling catch up later, right? Feelings are optional, but standards are not. So decide what you no longer are willing to negotiate. Decide what kind of person you are, not in words, but in behavior. Because the quality of your life is not determined by your intentions or your insights. It's determined by the standards you live by when no one is watching. I don't have that problem where I'm just not motivated, or I don't feel motivated, and I'm not where I want to be. Because for me, I understand that I have to agree on an identity for myself, who I am, who I want to be. And I hold that mental image of myself. And I talk to myself about that as well. I use the self-talk, I use the imagery. And that person is me. So if it's somebody who's physically fit, if I see someone with the body that I want to model after, I will see myself that way. And it doesn't happen immediately. But as the days, weeks, and months pass, you slowly find yourself moving in that direction. And so I'll use the self-talk to reinforce the mental image that I'm holding of myself, and to feel the feelings that are associated with actually living that, with having that mental image become reality, whether it's me feeling good in public or feeling good about myself. So you've got the feelings, you've got the mental imagery, and you've got the self-talk that is supporting that. So when that is your identity, you're not really wrestling against yourself and try to motivate yourself anymore. So whether it's working hard to achieve financial goals or working out to stay fit or get in shape, those things just happen. They fall into place, whether you're tired, you don't feel like doing something, or you're not motivated, doesn't matter. And in the past, I've achieved all of most of the goals that I've set for myself. I grew a multi-million-dollar company that employed thousands of people for almost 10 years. And I achieved my personal fitness goals. And those things would have been impossible if I would have just relied on motivation alone. It would never have worked. So I hope that you understand how to create these standards for yourself in terms of using the mental imagery, the self-talk, and to try to feel how it would feel if you were living that, if that was your reality. The actions will come on their own. You will find yourself doing the right things, rain or shine. So that's what I mean by having standards. You can spell them out, you could write them down, but this is what you have to do to internalize them, right? So when you internalize them properly, these are standards that you live by. I hope you enjoyed our talk today. If you found this useful, please share it with a friend and like and subscribe. It supports my channel. I'll see you on the next video. Thanks.